Okay, so first day jitters are normal, right? But this place was dead silent, like a library after closing time. Papers were scattered everywhere, some fluttering in the air vent like escapees from a horror flick. My palms were slick with sweat as I navigated the maze of cubicles. Then I saw it. A framed picture perched on a filing cabinet. A smiling woman with bright eyes and hair, the color of sunshine. Flowers wilted beside it, their once vibrant colors muted now. Before I could ask about her, a voice startled me. "Hey, you must be the new guy." I whipped around, nearly knocking over a stack of files. A tall, lanky dude flashed a grin that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Michael," he said, extending a hand. "Welcome to—" He trailed off, looking around nervously. "Quiet?" I offered, a nervous chuckle escaping my lips. "Yeah," he said, the smile vanishing completely. "A little quiet since Sarah. You know." He gestured vaguely at the picture. Sarah. The name hung heavy in the air, laced with something unspoken. I mumbled a condolence, the cheerfulness I'd practiced in the mirror all morning evaporating. Later, nature called. My stomach lurched, a primal urge breaking the suffocating silence. Seeking refuge in the sterile white bathroom, I did my business, then froze. A muffled sob erupted from the last stall at the back. It wasn't a choked cry, but a deep, shuddering sob that seemed to claw its way from a bottomless pit of despair. My blood ran cold. A grieving coworker? No way. That sounded like a soul shattering into a million pieces. "Hey?" I called out tentatively. Silence. The sob came again, a gut-wrenching sound that scraped against my sanity. I peeked under the stall door, but the stall was empty. Just a cold, damp tile floor mocking my fear. Still, that soul-crushing sob continued, echoing off the cold bathroom tiles, and a seed of unease sprouted deep within me. This quiet office was hiding something, and I had a sinking feeling I was about to find out exactly what. The next day, the sobs were back, puncturing the morning silence like a rusty nail on a chalkboard. Same stall, same heart-wrenching sound. This time, curiosity gnawed at me worse than my rumbling stomach. Lunch break couldn't come fast enough. During my escape, I casually sidled up to Michael, the lanky dude from yesterday. "Hey, Michael. Any idea why that last stall is always locked?" I tried to sound nonchalant, but my voice cracked. He shot me a weird look. "Oh, yeah," he mumbled, avoiding eye contact. "There's some prank war going on. Someone keeps putting whoopee cushions on the toilet seat." "A whoopee cushion? Seriously?" My skepticism meter went into overdrive. "A prank war in this deathly quiet office." "Right," I muttered, unconvinced. Back at my desk, the internet became my rabbit hole. Sarah's name yielded nothing but glowing obituaries and sanitized company records. It was like she never existed outside of work. The lack of information was creepy. My gut told me something wasn't right. Sleep that night was a distant dream. My eyelids felt like sandpaper, but fear kept them propped open. Driven by a relentless curiosity that bordered on obsession, I delved deeper into the company's digital labyrinth. Frustration gnawed at me as layer upon layer of security protocols blocked my every move. Just when I was about to give up, a flicker of hope emerged on the screen. A hidden archive of restricted documents. My heart hammered in my chest as I bypassed the final firewall with trembling fingers. It wasn't exactly Fort Knox. Back in high school, bored out of my mind during computer science class, I'd spent hours tinkering with old software and learning basic hacking techniques from online forums. The company's IT security, frankly, seemed stuck in the dark ages. A few well-placed exploits gleaned from my teenage hacking days, and bingo, there it was, an accident report for Sarah's slip and fall in the bathroom. The document itself was a digital graveyard, most of it obscured by thick black rectangles, like a child's clumsy attempt to censor a scary movie. But amidst the redacted text, a single sentence shone through, stark and uncensored, like a bloody fingerprint on a pristine white wall. Cause of death: blunt force trauma to the head, inconsistent with a simple fall. The words slammed into me like a physical blow. Inconsistent? What the hell did that mean? A horrifying image flashed before my eyes. Sarah, sprawled on the cold bathroom floor, not from a clumsy tumble, but from a violent blow. A cold sweat prickled my skin, turning my pajamas clammy and cold. Suddenly, the whoopee cushion prank sounded like a cruel joke in comparison. The locked stall, the daily sobs. What if there was a far more sinister story lurking beneath the surface of this quiet office? What if Sarah's death wasn't an accident at all? The sobs had morphed into screams, raw, tormented shrieks that echoed through the empty office building. But according to my colleagues, everything was normal. First day jitters getting to you, Tony, Michael offered with a sympathetic pat on the shoulder. Jitters? This was full-blown terror, the kind that clawed its way up your throat and choked the air out of your lungs. The growls, too, had escalated. Deep, guttural sounds that vibrated through the floorboards, sending shivers down my spine. Except, apparently, no one else heard them. Desperate, I scoured the company's online employee portal, a place where glowing performance reviews hung like digital trophies. Buried beneath a mountain of praise, I stumbled upon a hidden corner, an anonymous review section. My heart hammered like a drum solo as I scrolled through the posts. Then I saw it. A single scathing review, signed simply S. My breath caught in my throat. Sarah. It had to be. The review described a harrowing experience. It detailed how Mr. Harris, the company manager, had followed her into the bathroom after hours when no one else was around. There, he cornered her and sexually assaulted her. Shaken and traumatized, Sarah reported the incident to the police. But her claims, lacking any physical evidence, were dismissed. The review was a desperate plea for help, a voice crying out into the void, a final attempt to expose Mr. Harris before he could hurt anyone else. A wave of nausea washed over me. This wasn't a prank war. This was something far more sinister. Sleep was a distant memory. My mind was a tangled mess of fear and a growing determination to get to the bottom of this. The next morning, the screams reached a fever pitch. The locked stall door vibrated with an unseen force, as if something monstrous clawed from within. That evening, I waited until I was alone in the office with Mr. Harris. Then, armed with the redacted accident report and Sarah's anonymous review, I marched into Mr. Harris's office. His face, usually a mask of forced cheer, contorted into a mixture of confusion and irritation. Mr. Harris, I blurted, my voice shaky but firm. I know what happened to Sarah. He scoffed, a pale imitation of his usual confident smile. What are you talking about, Tony? I slammed the documents on his desk, the sound echoing in the sterile silence of the office. This report, I pointed at the redacted text. It mentions blunt force trauma, not a slip and fall. And this, I held up the anonymous review. This is Sarah's voice. She was scared of you, Mr. Harris. His face drained of color. The forced smile vanished, replaced by a mask of raw fear. The truth, once buried, hung heavy in the air, thick and suffocating. Mr. Harris stared at the documents, his face a mask of crumbling composure. Then, a choked sob escaped his lips. It was an accident, he rasped, his voice barely a whisper. We argued. I pushed her. She hit her head. Guilt gnawed at me. The assault, the accident. I panicked. Staging her death seemed like the only way out. But the guilt never faded. The nightmares, the feeling of Sarah watching. I desperately searched for a way to make it right, and found those dark rituals online. Blinded by grief, I unleashed something far worse. The rituals? I pressed, my voice tight. The screams, the growls. "What did you do?" Shame contorted his features. "I tried to appease her," he stammered. "I found these things online. Dark rituals to apologize to the dead. I thought it would stop the nightmares, the feeling of her watching me all the time." A horrifying realization dawned on me. Mr. Harris hadn't just unleashed Sarah's wrath. He'd opened a door to something far worse. The escalation in the sounds, the raw terror radiating from the locked stall. It wasn't Sarah. It was something else entirely. Something Mr. Harris had unwittingly summoned with his twisted attempts at apology. Suddenly, propelled by a primal urge, Mr. Harris lunged. A guttural snarl ripped from his throat, his eyes burning with a terrifying, otherworldly rage. He grabbed a heavy desk lamp, swinging it at me with a sickening crack. Adrenaline surged through me, erasing fear. I dove to the side, the lamp shattering against the wall, spraying shards of glass like deadly confetti. "You goddamn snitch!" Mr. Harris roared, his voice a gravelly rasp. He lunged at me again, his face contorted with a mix of rage and fear. This time, I wasn't fast enough. His fist connected with my jaw, sending a jolt of pain through my head. Stars exploded in my vision, and I tasted blood. I stumbled back, crashing into the edge of the desk. My vision blurred, the room tilting at a sickening angle. Mr. Harris loomed over me, his eyes burning with a malevolent hunger. He grabbed me by the collar, his grip like a vise. "You'll pay for what you know," he snarled, his breath hot and fetid in my face. Just as he lifted his fist to deliver another blow, a primal instinct kicked in. I summoned every ounce of remaining strength, and with a desperate shove, sent him sprawling backwards. He hit the bookshelf with a sickening thud. He lay there for a moment, stunned, before scrambling to his feet, but the rage in his eyes had dimmed, replaced by a flicker of fear. Seizing my chance, I lunged for him, tackling him to the ground. A desperate struggle ensued, a tangle of limbs and grunts. I managed to grab his belt, the worn leather digging into my skin. With a surge of adrenaline, I yanked it free and secured his hands behind his back. Gasping for breath, I scrambled back, my body screaming in protest. Mr. Harris lay there, chest heaving, a defeated snarl twisting his features. I fumbled for my phone, my vision swimming. "Help!" I croaked, dialing 911. My voice was a ragged whisper, but the dispatcher's calm voice on the other end of the line was a lifeline. The police arrived with flashing lights and stern questions. They took Mr. Harris away, his face a canvas of conflicting emotions, guilt, fear, and something else lurking beneath the surface. The evidence, the report, the review spoke for itself. The bathroom stall remained locked, but the tormented cries had ceased. An unsettling silence hung heavy in the air. The next morning, a single white lily, Sarah's favorite flower, sprouted miraculously in a neglected pot on my desk. It was a bittersweet farewell, a whisper of peace after the storm. Yet, a nagging question lingered in my mind. What else had Mr. Harris unleashed with his dark rituals? The silence, once oppressive, now held a new kind of tension, awaiting. The fight for justice was over, but the true cost of Mr. Harris's actions and the potential consequences for the entire office remained shrouded in the chilling silence.